Geordie Journo's back outside the Newcastle United Media Centre, where we've been speaking to Eddie Howe once again ahead of Newcastle United's trip to Arsenal in the Premier League on Sunday. It's our second last one of the season, Jordan.
Aye, it is, aye. Yeah.
It's been a good season, a great season.
It has, well, yeah, it has.
Could still get even better.
It can, yeah. I mean, opportunity to go second. I'm not thinking too much about second place.
Neither does Eddie Howe.
Yeah, it's just about getting over the line and getting Champions League football.
Yeah.
But if they were to win at Arsenal, secure Champions League qualification, and go into the final day with the incentive to finish second, because I think it's an incentive. I think
It is for Newcastle, yeah.
If Newcastle are in a position where they can finish second, you've got to absolutely go for it. And that would be a remarkable season. I think it would be a remarkable season, whatever happens now, win the trophy. It would be a monumental balls up if they didn't go and get Champions League football now, given the position that they've worked themselves in. That's huge credit to Eddie Howe, the staff and the players to be in this position. But just hopefully they can get over the line. I think Sunday is a difficult one. Arsenal's last game of the season. Newcastle have had their number this season.
Yeah.
They have had this number, so I do wonder if there's a little bit of motivation from their end. But there's nothing to fear, really. So usually when you go to the Emirates, you expect a battering. It doesn't fit at this time. You can get batterings there, but I'm just saying Newcastle will work themselves in a position where you can go to these places and not
the
fear the
factor
worst.
has disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying that there's nothing here to say that they won't go and get battered, because that can happen. But it's not that going into the game and going, we're going to get battered today. That's not there anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And to start, we'll start where Eddie Howe started, because
Yes.
he got asked a good few questions on the injury situation. There's obviously doubts over Sven Botman, who went off with a knee issue against Chelsea. Kieran Trippier, Joe Willock missed that game.
Yeah.
Joe Linton's missed the last few games. And then you've obviously got the likes of Jamal Lascelles coming back. So what did Eddie Howe have to say on the injury front, and was it good news?
Yeah, so Kieran Trippier out, unavailable, minor calf issue. Out of this weekend, he confirmed. I'd be surprised if he played next weekend, to be honest, Trippier. Depending on how the back line looks, because obviously there's been a few injuries in there, which we'll come on to. Joe Linton's the other one, who Eddie Howe always said it was unlikely that he would come back, but I think today was quite concrete in saying that he won't return. It's a big possibility I won't see him again until next season. See, I think he'd left it open a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a player versus the club thing. Like Joe Linton will be like, I'm determined to get back and play my part, and the club are just like, you're injured, mate.
Which is a shame, because I would have wheeled Joe Linton out for a I would have brought Joe Linton in against Arsenal, because he proper rallies up their players and fans. He's like that type of beep house where it's like really gets under the skin of teams like Arsenal. I think you do miss him on occasions like that, but yeah. He's not going to play again this season. Better news on Sven Botman and Joe Willock.
Yeah, because I think Eddie Howe was keen to get the message across that both players have a chance. Although I'd say whenever Eddie Howe says players have a chance, it usually means they probably won't play. But they definitely sound closer than the likes of Kieran Trippier and Joe Linton.
Yeah, I mean, Sven Botman, we've been here before with Sven Botman, where Eddie Howe gave updates and said it's a minor issue, but it does sound like it's just been a knock on this occasion. Yeah. You always fear the worst when he has Sven Botman knee, because of obviously his past history. He's been through absolute hell and back in the last 18 months with knee issues, so you do fear the worst. But it's one of them. Do you risk him? It depends how bad it is. Only they know how bad the knock is.
Yeah, and if he's missed training as well, it's another issue to consider. All I will say is Sven Botman's played very little football this season. His 2 games against Arsenal, he was incredible.
He was, yeah. I think both games. I was going to say especially down at the Emirates, but he was exceptional in both games.
And got injured in the second one, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think with Sven Botman, you see a player that's just oozes sort of class when he comes into the team. He has, when he's came into the team this season, he has upped the levels. I think you see how good a defender he really is. I always say that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Yeah, and for me, when Sven Botman comes into that team, they just look a better defensive unit, and that 5 at the back really works when he's there. Yeah. See, Eddie Howe's brought out that tactic for some big games, Chelsea on Sunday, and the 2 Arsenal games. So having him available is massive, but if he's not 100%, then what's the point of taking the risk, given that he's past history? But I like the fight at the back system. I think probably injuries now maybe dictate that Eddie Howe might have to do it again on Sunday.
Possibly.
But that would probably only make Emil Kraft comes into the back 5 or centre back 3, because Jamal Lascelles, based on what Eddie Howe said to me, and it's understandable, I think they'll be very reluctant to throw Jamal Lascelles in, as I put it, at the deep end, given that he's been out for 13 months. Yeah.
He did that with Sven Botman at Tottenham.
He did,
but slightly different situation.
Yeah,
Eddie Howe was keen to stress, although there were ACL injuries by name, very different recovery process with Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles. Obviously different age, different type of injury, even though it's by definition medically the same actual injury. But yeah, I think a big question I actually quite liked Eddie Howe clearing up is Jamal Lascelles, Bruno on the pitch at the same time. Who wears the armband? And
Bruno,
interesting.
Yeah.
Because Jamal Lascelles has had it for the past 9 years, really, as captain, and obviously it got announced that Bruno was the team captain ahead of the season, where you go, oh well, that makes sense because Jamal Lascelles is going to miss the majority of the season with his knee injury. But now they're both back. They both lift the Carabao Cup together, even though Jamal Lascelles hasn't played this season. Yeah, Bruno wearing the armband.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really argue with it, can you? I mean, I'm a big Jamal Lascelles fan. And for me, even though you won't have the armband, you'll always be this
Your
club's
captain.
You'll always be my captain. You'll always be this club's captain. I cannot speak highly enough of the man for what he's done for this club and stood up for the club in its real time of need. So even though he doesn't physically have the armband, he's still a skipper. He's still a part of the leadership group, which Eddie Howe was keen to reference as well.
Do you know who he missed out?
Trippier.
No, he named Trippier. He named the leadership group. He didn't name Callum Wilson, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know. It's.
Was it a lack of a slip of the tongue, or was it like?
No, to be fair,
even,
I didn't realise that. Like,
no, I was just reading it back, and yeah, I thought it was interesting he didn't mention Callum Wilson, because Callum Wilson had his leadership group programme column against Chelsea.
He certainly did, yeah.
Fresh in the mind, so.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Aye. It's hard to know. I think it's when you
let's not stir the pot too.
Right, you're rattling off 4 or 5 names.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably to give the manager. It's probably hard for the manager to remember everyone's name.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe because he is out of contract. But I think we're probably speculating there. We'll stick to the facts on this occasion.
But Eddie Howe did say it's important. You can't just have one captain. You need multiple captains. Okay, one person can wear the armband. But when you've got a squad of 25, 30 players, you need multiple leaders, and it's good that Newcastle have that.
Yeah.
So good to see.
Yeah, it was good. It was because he got run out in midweek. Jamal Lascelles, for those who didn't know, 45 minutes against Celtic B for under 21. So it'll be a good sort of mental barrier for him to overcome. I think as far as first team appearances go in these next 2 games, I think it'll be cameos at best, but I do think they'll be very, very reluctant to put Jamal Lascelles on the football pitch. I think they'd much prefer for him to get a full pre-season and come back stronger next year, because he is under contract next year.
Yes, which was a hint Eddie Howe dropped at you a couple of weeks ago,
yeah.
And is still yet to be confirmed by the club, but I'm sure will be in the coming weeks when they announce their retained list, which will be an interesting read, I am sure. But on looking ahead to the summer, transfers, things like that, because Eddie Howe, I think, is getting more and more open about transfers. Historically, okay, he's never going to name names, but historically, we'll wait and see. And
it was last week he was saying all that.
Yeah. And then on Sunday, he says, I've made no secret that this summer is going to be a big transfer window for us. Then today, historically, PSR situation, he's never really addressed. He said, look, we think we'll be in an easier PSR situation in the summer, given how the past few transfer windows have been quiet. They've cut losses, they've sold players, the likes of Miguel Almiron, Lloyd Kelly's going to go in the summer now. It was interesting. I think I've never heard Eddie Howe just come out and say on the record, and he did this today, PSR is not an issue for us. We can strengthen this summer. He said those words. He pretty much said that, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he did. It's very, very telling, because he doesn't usually give that. I think even when I asked about transfers last week in the Sunday section, it was like, let's wait and see. I think in terms of like specific questions on transfers, he doesn't really answer. Yeah. But I think he's quite open to the fact that there will be business this summer. And for me, that today, the quote was probably his biggest hint yet. I think we all sort of know that Newcastle, or hope that Newcastle will have money to spend this summer, because they've been through the pain of not being able to bring in a major signing for the last 3 transfer windows, but to hear the manager say that, who usually gives very little away, I just think it's a nice thing to hear.
Yeah.
Just gives you that little bit of a boost.
He's telling us what we all know, but it's one of those situations where what you're hearing gets vindicated.
Yeah.
It's like I was speaking to Liam yesterday. It's a different story, but we'd never really addressed it in our last press conference video. Obviously, Liam leaks that Newcastle United club crest design. To hear it then confirmed by the club officially in a meeting, it just gives credence to everything you've written, which is nice.
Yeah, so we knew about that club crest when we recorded our video last week, and I think Liam even said yes. I think he was open to criticism by a few people in the comments, but I think Liam was speaking from the perspective that he knew about that club crest, and it was, let's be honest, it was an absolute abomination. It was hideous. The club crest was. I wasn't a fan of that at all.
No, it's one of them where the fact that that's got to a level of the club are going, this is the design we're almost presenting in a presentation, is a little bit worrying. But let's move on from that, because ultimately the club crest is something that gets pushed a lot further down the line, and it seems apparent, and certainly Liam wrote a piece on Newcastle World, that the club will be striving to do better than that very basic concept example. And Eddie Howe actually spoke about the crest today, and he said, look, he's one, I think echoed the message of the club, keen to keep tradition intact, but open to change as well, as you have to be in the modern game.
Reference to the fan consultations, and I think that's fine, but I think the fans really do have to be involved. They have to have the final say on the club crest. There's no doubt about it, because at the end of the day, I know the ownership, whatever, Eddie Howe, players, they all come and go. This is the fans' club, it's the fans' badge. So for me, they have to get the final say.
Yeah, I think everyone will have different opinions. I think we're of a generation where we've only ever known the Covent Club crest. There'll be people like our dad's generation who's probably seen 3 or 4 club crests in the time. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see how the process turns out. But I just hope maybe the badge being leaked is sort of a learning process for Newcastle as well, just to really do involve the fans, and don't, if you're going to design something, run it past the fans. I mean, have options for the supporters to decide. Not everyone's going to agree. I don't think there's ever a situation in life where everyone agrees on something, but the supporters have to have the final say in whatever goes on the shirt. The majority, if not all, if you can't, have to be happy with it.
Yes, and looking ahead, obviously we'll move on from that. Arsenal on Sunday. How are you lining up?
So I mentioned 5 at the back there. I think he might stick with that, but you've probably got more options by going with a midfield 3, don't you, with Lewis Miley and
Miley came
Shaw
on and
stuff.
Did a job, I suppose, against Chelsea.
Because I think that back 5 works to a T with Sven Botman in it. I suspect Emil Kraft will probably drop in the 3rd centre half. I mean, he's proven a very dependable squad player to be fair. Emil Kraft, actually. I think Eddie Howe was asked about in the press conference, and
in the Sundays section, I think.
Oh, was it? But you haven't seen the quote yet.
Yes. There is a Sundays section. When there's a game on Sunday, there's a Sundays section. You won't see it on the video, and we usually tend to ask our more general questions which aren't about injuries or things like that, or about injuries but a target injury or something like that, something that's not pressing. So he was asked about Emil Kraft, and it's an interesting question actually, asked Eddie Howe, and he's been asked this a few times and he consistently refuses to answer it, and I don't think he can really answer it, where it's like, what's more important, the Carabao Cup or Champions League qualification? Is it a no-brainer as a Newcastle fan?
Depends how you determine it. It's like, financially it's Champions League obviously, but for what you play football for, the emotion of football, it's bloody winning a trophy.
Exactly.
Like people talking about, would second place be bigger than a Carabao Cup win?
No.
Definitely not.
You've waited 70 years to win a major trophy at Wembley Stadium. I mean, Newcastle finished 2nd in the Premier League twice in my lifetime. They finished 3rd, finished 4th a couple of times as well. Look, Champions League football is great, and looking longer term is great. The cup is a fleeting thing in terms of the actual merits of it, but the feelings are last 100%. A lifetime. Finishing Second, you're playing again next season. You do whatever in the Premier League. It's one of them. It's a heart over head thing. I think Head would say, oh yeah, Champions League, you need that PSR, longevity of the club and transfer windows. But at the end of the day, football, your bare sort of raw aim as a football club is success, and success, in my opinion, is measured by trophies.
Absolutely. I mean, probably those in the boardroom who are in control of finances would say Champions League. Finances are game changing. You get Champions League, it keeps you in touch with your rivals. We spoke about it briefly. Newcastle winning a Champions League football this season, and a team like Aston Villa, where in that sense you're falling further behind in terms of finances. But in terms of football, winning a trophy, and as I say that day at Wembley, which we all experienced, I don't think I'll ever be topped. I've said several times, and I stand by it. Newcastle United can go and continue to win trophies after this one, but for me that was the most special, because it was the one after so long. It was almost so craved so badly. Yeah.
And ultimately, getting in the Champions League, making more money, why do you want to do that? Also, you can invest in the squad and win trophies. So, like that's basically what it is. So, yeah, I think Eddie Howe can't answer that question. Obviously,
I think he thinks cup as well, but it's like
he did actually say he has said things along the lines of, look, when he comes into the club, ending that trophy drought is the obvious. It's like banner of this is your objective.
He done not no one else could for a very, very long time, and yes. I think, as I say, I think we spoke about previously that for him to do that, him and that squad of players are the absolute legends. The manager is absolutely a legend. Will go down in the history of this football club for a lot of years, and I think that for him is, you never admit it, but that must be pretty special at a club of this size anyway, to write your name in the history books, being the first man in so long. It's massive of him, but of course to keep progressing and sort of his job in the finances, etc., and buying players, Champions League football is important in that sense. But I mean, Eddie Howe would leave tomorrow, right, and he would be a legend. Anything can happen now, and he's a legend. And I think for him, he'll never admit it, but that's what you do it for, man.
Yes, I think it goes without saying as well. I mean, it's sort of champagne sort of situations around the club, but Eddie Howe, third manager of the season nomination in 4 seasons at Newcastle, which incredible.
Yeah, no, I'm biased, and I think Eddie Howe should win it, because you factor all these things about Newcastle haven't made a major sign for 3 transfer windows. I was literally in December, we were talking about the club going stale, needing investment, and from then they've ended up winning a trophy, and they've one win away from qualifying for the Champions League. So for me, he gets it because of what he's done, all the context around it, and proven players, etc. For what he's kind of small group, he's maximised them, he's got everything out of them. This squad really shouldn't be finishing second, third, whatever in the Champions League.
No.
They've got a good start 11, but in terms of the squad, I don't think the squad is not good enough, because that's harsh. But I just think you've maximised everything out of them to be in that position. But the thing is, when you vote for these awards, people don't look at who make these decisions. I don't know who votes for it. Is it the fans? Is it people at the
bit of both, innit?
Yes. So look, we all know who's going to win. Arnie Slot will win it. There's no doubt about it.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. When it's based, it is the Premier League. Yes. Like, they don't really take into account what you've done in Europe, what you've done in the cups. As a Premier League manager with huge shoes to fill, in Jurgen Klopp, Arne Slot first season in, to win the Premier League at the canter is just a shoe-in for it, whether we like it or not. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with it. I just think that's just what's going to happen.
I just think the context more of what Eddie Howe has done. Look, winning the Premier League is a fantastic achievement, but what I would say about that is Liverpool. I don't want to take anything away.
Liverpool haven't had many signings, by the way.
No.
Last summer, anyway.
But they've almost just been the most consistent team out of a very inconsistent league. Yeah. And I think the Premier League this season, and I think it's been easier to win this season, because literally you always have a winner and you have a clear runner-up. I might be talking absolute crap here, right? But usually you have a clear runner-up. It's been Arsenal for several seasons. It could be Arsenal this season who finishes runner-up, but
not a clear
they're not really runners-up, really. No, you get the tag. You get the tag of runners-up, but they literally go in the final 2 games of the season with the opportunity of still finishing probably 5th.
could finish 6th if they don't get any points.
So that it's been a very inconsistent season, but what I'm saying about Eddie Howe and what Newcastle have done is the fact that they've just been on the bare bones and they've managed to get themselves in a position where they're potentially are 1 win away from qualifying for the Champions League for the second time in 3 seasons without any major signings, and I think that is a hell of a feat.
Yes, and Arsenal must be low-key fuming really, because they've always been the runners-up the past couple of seasons. They've really pushed Man City, and then Man City fall through the floor by their standards, and they're still not able to make that final step. And it's an interesting debate, and it was brought up in Eddie Howe's press conference, where players keep getting linked with Arsenal as if they're like this massive club, and Arsenal are one of the biggest clubs in England, no doubt. But it's almost like, well, as things stand, based on this season, Newcastle have had a better season than Arsenal if things were to stop here and now. And it's almost like you look at Arsenal as a club the past few years, there's a very real chance, as much as finishing second is a good achievement and the consistency has been there, haven't won a trophy in 5 years, you're looking at Liverpool winning the Premier League, Newcastle winning the Carabao Cup, Chelsea winning the Conference League, albeit a competition Arsenal would never dream of being in or wanting to be in. Man City could win the FA Cup. You're looking at Arsenal, all your rival teams right around you are winning things. You're sat there, oh well, second place medal, it's not really a thing.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely.
It's an interesting... Look, I have a lot of respect for Arsenal. I think they're a massive club, a great football club. But it's just an interesting sort of situation when Arsenal are in almost a bit of a limbo state where almost always the bridesmaids, never the bride type thing. And it's an interesting thing where you're trying to go, almost having a divine right to sign players like Alexander Isak, Bruno in previous seasons, things like that. But then Eddie Howe was asked things like, well, why wouldn't Isak and Bruno and Anthony Gordon, big players, want to stay at Newcastle? They can win trophies here, get Champions League here, and it's a nice place to live.
Arsenal is an absolutely massive football club. It's probably the biggest club in the south, I would say.
It is.
Yeah, I agree. Liverpool are Man United. I think Liverpool are in the team in the north. I think Liverpool are the biggest club in the country. Probably Man United after that, and then I think Arsenal are probably third. They haven't recent success. They haven't won a lot. I mean, they had went for a run where they won FA Cups for quite a few consecutive years or whatever. It was 3 FA Cups in 5 years, whatever. Yeah. But in terms of that recent success you mentioned there, about 5 years out winning the trophy. In terms of stature, I think Arsenal is a step up. But from playing wise now, looking at the two teams and where they are at the current time, I don't think Arsenal is a big enough step enough for Alexander Isak. If Alexander Isak leaves Newcastle United, he has to go to a Real Madrid or a Barcelona. Yeah. Arsenal for me, again, a massive club, but that's not a big enough of a step up for me. Yeah. I don't think anyway at this moment in time. I'm not denying it in terms of stature of clubs. Can't deny that Arsenal are bigger than the club of Newcastle. But at this moment in time, there's not really a lot separating the two clubs, really. Especially based on this season. Look, anyway.
Alexander Isak has made... I'm using him as an example. And
he's the one that's always linked, though. I mean, we went to the Emirates Stadium in January and there's a kid getting off the bus and he's gone, welcome home, Alex. It's like...
Shut up.
I mean, it was
Gunnosaurus. Saying you belong here.
Oh,
honestly Gunnosaurus in the bin.
Hate that. I hate it. Getting rattled by it. By a mascot.
We don't care really. But the Alexander Isak rumours are complete fluff, by the way, because
they can't afford him.
Ultimately,
not many clubs can afford him.
Anytime someone writes about Alexander Isak Arsenal, people read it, and that's
annoying.
That's the issue. It's a snowball effect based on absolute just fluff.
I get emails all the time of PR companies, and it's always like William Gallas says Alexander. Yeah, this is the one I got today. Yeah. William Gallas will take Arsenal to the next level. I've got absolutely no doubt he will.
Gallas will.
But go on then. William Gallas did.
He did.
But honestly, like if Arsenal want to go and sign him, you're gonna have to pay 180 million, mate. Like it's not. It's just.
It's gone up.
It has and I don't know. From Alexander Isak's point of view, look, as I say, Arsenal are a big club, but it's like. You've worked yourself in a position where you're probably one of the best strikers in the world. If you're going to go somewhere, it's gonna have to be a massive step up. And as I say, Arsenal just aren't that at the minute. They are, as I say, I'm thinking just in case Arsenal fans watch this, probably won't, but just in case if Arsenal fans were to watch it, Arsenal is a massive club. It's bigger than Newcastle, but at this moment in time, between the two clubs, there's not enough to step up for a player like Alexander Isak. And I'm using him because he's always the one bloody linked with him.
Aye, we've paid it lip service, but yeah, I'm sure you want us to stop talking about that. And on that note, we'll have a word from our sponsors. Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in. So those are our sponsors, links in the description below. And obviously, big game on Sunday at the Emirates Stadium. We'll be there, joined by our fellow Geordie journo, Liam Kennedy, to reflect on it. And something we touched on before, but never really got our teeth into, was how you line up for Newcastle United. I think you spoke about the defence. Are you going 5 at the back, or do you keep that 3-man midfield that ended the game against Chelsea? How are you thinking?
5 at the back for me. Emil Croft comes in if Sven Botman isn't fit. That's what I would stick with. And then, I mean, the midfield 3, I'd sort of been calling for Lewis Miley for a long time. Joe obviously got the nod. But I think having deployed that against Chelsea last week, the 5, I think I'll probably stick with that because...
Stick with the 2 in midfield, or...?
The 2 in midfield, yes, with a 5 at the back. That's what I would go with.
Tonali, Bruno.
With Croft alongside.
Jacob Murphy, wing back.
Yes, which I know is probably a bit of a contentious one, maybe because depending on how Arsenal line up to do, the wide areas are where they're most dangerous. But I think when you've got Kraft covering that side, it does offer a little bit more protection with the 2 centre halves, because it was last week. It was Fabian Schär in the middle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, sorry, it was Botman in the middle actually. With Schär on the right side, Burn on the left, and that sort of gives you cover when the wing backs bomb on. So I for the midfield 3, I just don't think they've got bodies there, but I just don't think it improves them enough. And I know I said about Lewis Miley a few weeks ago I want to see him in, but Eddie Howe didn't make the call at the time, and I just think maybe now is sort of the time has run out this season for Lewis Miley, and hopefully you can see more of him next year, because he is a really good talent. Yeah,
I think Eddie Howe showed his hand a little bit with Chelsea, where he did go that 3 centre back thing, and Emil Kraft naturally would come in. I'd like to see Emil Kraft come in at right back and then go the 4-3-3, and I think one player who I'd probably drop, as good as he's been, is I'd put Harvey Barnes on the bench and Anthony Gordon in, Jacob Murphy on the right wing, who can sort of double up with Emil Kraft, Alexander Isak through the middle, and then a midfield 3 of Bruno, Tonali, and then Lewis Miley.
Oh, right, okay.
So that's how I'd do it. And the reason I put Anthony Gordon in, I thought he was okay against Chelsea. Started brightly. Harvey Barnes had one of his more frustrating games. But Anthony Gordon, and this is something I asked Eddie Howe, is a big game player. His record against the top sides, the biggest clubs in the Premier League, is incredibly good. Against Arsenal this season, 2 goals and an assist. Really almost always turns up for these big games. And I asked Eddie Howe that, and he said, yeah, almost he is one of those players who can really up his levels. The challenge for Anthony Gordon, which he can do, is maintain that consistency over the course of the season, and when you're in those sort of lower stakes games, if you like, turn up and contribute in those games as well. And Eddie Howe also recognised it's been a bit of a stop-start, up and down season for Anthony Gordon. He was incredible last season, player of the season for Newcastle. This season had a slow start, as pretty much the entire team did, with the exception of Harvey Barnes actually. And he's started his first game in a couple of months against Chelsea last time out. Hasn't scored in a while either, so he'll be chomping at the bit and looking to make an impact the last 2 games, because I think he's still a very big player.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting in Eddie Howe's response to you when you mentioned about the up and down nature of the season, and he referenced the transfer speculation, which I thought was really interesting.
He thought he was going to Liverpool, didn't he?
But I thought it was really interesting that he mentioned that again. It just shows how maybe it did really impact the player mentally. I think at the time, I can't remember if Eddie Howe hid the fact, but I know you at the time, at the start of the season, he did sort of talk about the transfer speculation, but I think he always said he was sort of strong enough to not think about it, but clearly it did impact him. And it was obviously there was a lot made of it until he signed that new contract. But it was obviously clearly a player that was impacted by what happened last summer. But hopefully all that's behind him. And cause he's player of the season last year. I think he has been up and down, but I would still put him in my start 11 over Harvey Barnes every day of the week, if I'm being brutally honest. I think he's still better than Harvey Barnes. I just think he's a top class player. He just hasn't really shown that consistency this season. But as you say, he's come up with some really big moments. So
he has. Carabao Cup semi-final, both legs in particular. I thought he was brilliant. But yeah, you mentioned player of the season last year, and I think this is definitely a video for another time. But we'll just tease it. If there's a player you had to pick for your player of the season, who would it be at this stage? Bearing in mind there's still 2 very important games to go.
So I'm torn on 2. So there's I'm trying to make this make sense. There's a most consistent, and then there's a player that's probably one of the main reasons why they are where they are. And the most consistent is Dan Burn, and the reason why Newcastle are where they are, the big part of the reason why Newcastle are where they are is Alexander Isak's 27 goals. So, but I think I'll go with Dan Burn. I do.
I think I would too, you know.
Yeah.
You look, the Carabao Cup final as well, okay, Isak effectively scored the winner in that final, 27 goals. It's amazing. I think Alexander Isak, though, until November time, actually had a poor start to the season.
He's had a good middle, hasn't he?
Yeah, very strong middle. Anthony Gordon had a very strong sort of December, January time. And yeah, Dan Burn just throughout the season has been a steady 8, 9s. Like,
he's really dropped below that.
Yeah, out of 10 defender, I think he's been excellent. I mean, in Sven Botman's absence, like we say how important Sven Botman is, almost not really been felt.
Yeah, 100%.
Really. Yeah. Which is such a huge compliment to Dan Burn. I think, he's another player I'll throw into the mix because of, okay, it's pretty much only been from November, December onwards, Sandro Tonali.
He's been
like the levels, if you're looking at where Newcastle were, they were bottom half of the Premier League when he comes into the side. Now they've won a cup and could go second with a win on Sunday. So Sandro Tonali, I think, is the 3rd player I'd throw into the ring there. Even though didn't really make an impact the first few months of the season, he was in and out the team. But you could argue Alexander Isak didn't really make an impact the first couple of months of the season. He only scored one of his first, I think, 10 games or something like that.
No, I can't disagree, Alexander Isak. It's probably Tonali. It's probably him dropping that number 6 role is one of the main reasons why. Again, another big reason why they are where they are. He's been such a revelation. So I think in terms of, you always talk about transformative signs, but I do think him coming into that role in December literally transformed Newcastle's season.
Yes, and we'll address that. This is more a video for the summer. We'll get Liam in and we'll do our sort of end of season and see how things change the last 2 games. I think if Dan Burn pops up and scores a hat-trick on Sunday, I think there'll be no question.
Or if he throws one in against Everton or Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
These things can change.
There's such fine margins in the season, and Newcastle 1 win away from Champions League football, 2 games left to play, still all to play for, 2 close to call, and Eddie Howe's not counting his chickens just yet, and neither are we. But we'll be down at the Emirates Stadium, myself and Jordan, as well as Liam Kennedy. And if you like what we do, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell for all your latest Geordie Journals content. We'll see you in London on Sunday. Thanks for watching.